Hello, hello. I'm letting the audience build. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to my channel. I'm Shanna, and I will show my face in just a second, but I wanted to show y'all all my beautiful flowers that I have here that I have experimented with in making the sourdough starter and the sourdough bread. It has been about 6 months since I've done it, so I may have to brush up on some of my thinking while I'm going over all of this with you. But there's so many sources on YouTube and Pinterest and places you can go and research anything that I give you some information about that I may not be very clear on. So, but anyway, basically this is my starter, my mother starter, and she has been in my icebox for about 6 months, and I haven't even fed her. You are supposed to keep feeding them. It's almost like having a pet. But I took her out 2 days ago, let her come to room temperature. The very next day, she was already starting to show some activity. And I went ahead and fed her with pineapple juice because I don't have distilled water on hand. And I wasn't able to really have time to look and see if we could use a pH water, which I do have. But I do know that I've used the pineapple before. Sometimes the sugar in the juice can help to activate it again as well. Some people even use beer. But it did work. So I used probably about 1/4 a cup, maybe a little more, of pineapple juice and some regular white flour to feed her. And I used probably about 1/4 of a cup, like a heaping cup of my flour. And then I mixed it, and like soon after, I don't know, about an hour or so, it was showing life. So, and basically you'll see, a lot of bubbling going on. Anyway, these are some different flours that I'm going to talk about. The einkorn, which if you're trying to get away from a gluten flour, do some research on einkorn. There's a lot of benefits from this flour. It's supposed to be one of our only grains out there that has literally been untouched and has no pesticides or anything like that. Very natural einkorn flour. I don't think it has the gluten in it, and gluten is in our other flours, which is what causes that elasticity and your bread to rise really beautifully and everything. But also research gluten, because I've looked at some things. If you really knew what it looked like, you would probably understand why it's not as easily digestible. But the good thing about sourdough starter is it is basically a fermented food, which is full of probiotic and prebiotic. And it's supposed to help digest bread better that way. So it depends on, like this right here, yes, I've made my starter with regular flour. I've also used wheat flour in this. I fed it, basically is what I'm saying. But I can use my starter, no matter what I fed it with, in any of these to break up the gluten if you're not wanting gluten in there. It is a little bit of a different feel and consistency when you're using this, but there's a lot of great videos on there of some people that have been successful using a sourdough starter that is full of good pre and probiotics to help with your digestion. So I probably would maybe experiment with a couple of these flours again. This one is actually a sprouted, kind of like the Ezekiel bread, a sprouted grain, sprouted wheat flour. Einkorn has like an all-purpose flour. They also have a wheat flour. Another good way to get a starter going is with a wheat flour, because the wild yeast tend to like the yeast in wheat. And what we're doing here is we're making a natural yeast instead of a packaged yeast. So kind of sounds crazy, but there's wild yeast in the air. Same thing as in beer factories and wineries when they're fermenting grapes and making beer and wine. We're doing basically the same thing with flour by adding flour and water daily, feeding it, and it captures the wild yeast in our air, in our home, and it feeds off the protein in the flour. So, you know, from what I've read, once you get a really good starter going in your home, it's gotten acclimated to your environment. It's even easier to continue to get a good starter going in a good environment for your starter. I'm just trying to cover a couple of things, and then I'm going to show y'all. We'll mix up some bread, and I'll show you my, but I don't know how you pronounce this, Banneton, the Banneton proofing basket. I think it's fun. It's really cool. It's old-fashioned, and we'll go over that too in the video. But back to kind of like some history and information on where the starter comes from and what it's made up of. So you're basically picking up the wild yeast in the air. It takes about 7 to 10 days to get one started. So if you have flour at home right now, if you don't have yeast to make your own bread, because you're not finding bread in the stores, you can get one started and it will actually rise because you created your own yeast. This will make it rise like to the rooftops, okay? Yes, it will. If you happen to have some of this, you can even kind of bump it up and add some to this, but people that are really wanting to be natural and stay away from the gluten and the synthetic yeast, I guess you would call this. You know, if you look at the ingredients that are in it, yeast, sorbitan, monosterate, and absorbic acid. Well, we're creating one that's natural from the air, but you can boost it with this, and some people do at some of the farmers markets, I believe. You'd have to ask them. They may tell you no, that mine is completely wild yeast risen, leavened bread, okay? So this right here is a live source that when you make a bread with it, it's replacing this, it's going to make it rise, okay? So there is going to be a proofing time, about 3 hours. You could even do it overnight. You can even put it in the fridge and let it proof in the fridge with this. So what I would do to say I want to make some bread today, I haven't made any in 6 months. That's what's nice about being able to store this in your refrigerator in what I call a hotel. I used my Cricut and I made a label for it. And she's been in her little hotel resting for about 6 months. I have not fed her, and I kind of thought, ooh, she's probably tainted or dead by now. But no, she's wonderful. And yes, sometimes I name them. I named my scobies when I was doing Jeune Kombucha. I haven't been doing that either, and that one's in the hotel too, and I'm not sure if my SCOBY is still kicking or not. But this is still nice, alive. Came right back after I brought it back to room temperature. Has a really nice smell to it. I like the smell. Kind of smells like a beer, honestly. But they say you'll know if it's no good anymore because it will have some mold and it will have not a very pleasant smell to it. So I know this one's good, and you can actually have this for the rest of your life, honestly, as long as you keep some aside when you go to bake bread. There's actually generations of families that have 100-year-old sourdough starter mothers to use as their yeast in their bread making. I was trying to think. I thought of something else. Lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna move forward. But so I'm gonna take. When you're making your sourdough starter, feeding it daily, you're going to notice that there's going to be like a brown liquid that develops on top, which is called hooch. And it's been 6 months and I really went down the rabbit hole on this. I don't have the exact information on what exactly hooch is, but it's almost an alcohol, but it's not like an alcohol like vodka that you drink that people indulge in. I don't think it's recommended that you really indulge in that. Sometimes I have mixed it back in during my feedings, and I noticed one of the times that when I was really trying to get this to get active in the first days, there was a tip that you can drain it off and do away with it to kind of kickstart it, you know, again. And I know it's hard too when you start to get a buildup of all of this and you're not baking bread and you're feeding it and there's none coming out because you're not baking. You can feed it to your chickens and your animals, your farm animals, because it can help with their gut bacteria. Maybe kill off the parasites and stuff in the chickens out there. You know, I've always fed mine apple cider vinegar and things like that, but they love it. They would, you know, if you don't want to just throw it down the drain, you feel like you're wasting something, you can feed it to your farm animals. Okay, so I wanted to cover that. So I'm gonna start mixing. We're gonna bake. I'm gonna mix as though we're gonna bake some bread, but I'm gonna get it to the point where it has to. Let me say hi to everybody. Hello. I hope that this is putting a smile on somebody's face today because of the crazy times that we're in right now, and let's just, you know, get away from it for a little bit and do something fun and keep our minds on something positive. So, and I'm hoping I'm helping somebody with their prepper pantry too. Okay. Let's see. I have to look on my phone to answer any live chat conversations. Nobody's here right now, but I'm going to keep moving forward as though y'all are here, because you can always come back and watch it after I upload it. Okay, so I'm going to put the camera back down. Just wanted to say hi. Thank y'all for being here or coming and watching again on replay. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell for any new uploads that I make to support my channel. I appreciate that too. Once I get 1,000 subscribers, I can start going live from my phone. I would have probably been going live a lot more if I was able to go from my phone sometimes. Okay, so I had written this down. This is a recipe to make a batch of bread. So what I'm going to do, you can see how bubbly it is because I fed it before I came live about probably an hour ago. So whenever it's really showing activity like that, it's really a good time to put some bread together to bake. I'm going to do one in my Banneton basket. This is just a cover that was on there. This can also be used if you don't have a Banneton basket and you have like a flour towel or a cheesecloth, thin cheesecloth. I'm going to show you how to use that too, because I am going to do 2 separate breads today because I like to put walnuts and cranberries and olives in mine. And my son said, Mom, please don't put birdseed in it. So I cracked up at him, but I'm going to make a plain one for Drake. Okay, so let's mix first. Let's get a bowl. And another thing, I do stir with this because I learned it from another lady that was doing sourdough bread. These are like, I believe on Amazon for real inexpensive, maybe $6 and something. And it's made for this, but they do say don't use metal, but I have not had any issues with it affecting the life of my mother. So I do stir with this a lot. And I am going to use a metal bowl to mix my bread. Sometimes I'll rise my bread in these bowls too. Okay, so let's see. We've got 2 cups of starter. So I need 2 cups of starter. Give me a measuring cup. Love this little thing here. I just fill this up because I want to take out about that 2 cups, you know, to condense my jar here so it doesn't overflow, and I don't have my chickens anymore to feed them any excess. So we're going to definitely get a good 2 cups, maybe even more. Okay. All right, so we got that in the bowl. It's basically the starter, liquidy. Smells so good. Okay, let me get something to lay this on. I'm gonna try to stay clean. I have used this starter when I was learning, you know, try not to overthink things. I was really experimenting and I used pineapple, I used sugar, I used beer. So this has a little bit of all that kind of in there. But you are supposed to use distilled water, and I would go to Market Basket because they have gallons that you can buy, fill it up with distilled water, and I would keep that kind of aside for this type of use. And then you can also take your gallons and refill them. You don't have to always buy a new gallon. Okay, so we got 2 cups of our starter. Now we need 2 cups of water. So this is going to be an experiment, y'all, because I don't know if we can use pH water, but from what I understand, I don't believe we're supposed to use tap water. I'm going to go for the pH water. So give me a second. I'll put some music on for you guys, and I'm going to go get some 2 cups of water. 2 cups of water. And I need my measuring cup. Use a glass cup. I shall return, guys. I'm gonna go get 2 cups of water. Okay, got my 2 cups of water. I gotta go back to this exact live to chat with y'all if anybody's here. Live chat. Okay. Mix and let rest while mixing flour and salt. Okay, so we need 3 cups of I did 3 cups of whole wheat in this recipe. 3 cups of all-purpose flour, teaspoon of salt, and make a well, add water and starter, light mix. Okay, so I'm gonna do something different here. I'm gonna pour my starter into the water. Okay, starter and water are together. Sorry. We don't have to be puffed. Get it all out of this bowl. It smells totally like beer right now. Okay, so I'm gonna let the water and the starter rest while I get the dry ingredients together. Dry ingredients: 3 cups of whole wheat flour, 3 of all-purpose. I don't know if I want to use einkorn. Let me look what I got here. I may use, there's my einkorn whole wheat. I could. I'm going to do it. I'm going to use einkorn whole wheat. I think I have 3 cups here. If I don't, I'll just add some of the sprouted. See? Don't overthink it. Just go for it. And usually it works out for me. I do know that the real chefs, they weigh all of this. And they're very precise. I've never have, and I've always had delicious bread. So I'm not saying, they're just probably more delicious, but but mine's very good, I promise. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That's 3 cups of whole wheat organic einkorn flour. Okay. EINKORN. And then this is my just regular white all-purpose flour. So we're going to do 3 cups of that, and this will give us 2 loaves of bread. You could cut this in half and just keep it 3 cups if you're wanting to do 1 loaf of bread. You can also make cinnamon rolls, and you usually can find a family at a farmer's market that makes sourdough starter bread, and they sell it baked and ready to eat. And sometimes you can have a friend share their starter with you. They give you some of theirs, and then you just continue to feed it, and you've got starter. It reminds me a lot of that friendship bread. I don't know if y'all remember that was always passed around in the baggies, and you'd feed it for 8 days, and then you'd bake cinnamon rolls or something with it. But they would add sugar, so let's say I wanted to do cinnamon rolls. You could add sugar to this, or whatever your choice of sweetener would be. Honey or, I don't know, stevia. I'm not sure how that would work, but I'm not afraid to experiment. But anyway, you could literally do that. And what I would do is mix it all up and roll it out, put your cinnamon and butter in the middle, roll it up, cut your loaves, load it in the pan, and let it proof just like that. And then you'd stick it in the oven and bake it. Okay, so the next thing we need is a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna eyeball it. In hard times, sometimes you don't have the exact ingredients. Use what you got. Don't overthink it. But I have I have everything I need. That was a quick grab for me real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna use my clean hands. They are washed. I did get it wet on that flour stick. Okay, and I'm gonna just kind of mix these thoroughly. Get the salt all in the bottom. Mix it. I'll come on and check every once in a while and see if anyone's joined, and if you're in chat when I get my hands clean, okay? Okay, so it should be good and mixed. So nice and fluffy. Okay, and look, while I have this flour dry right now, I'm gonna go ahead and flour my banneton basket. Okay, you're not supposed to bake in this. This is only for proofing, and these beautiful little rings are gonna leave an indentation shape just like this in your bread when you dump it out after it's proofed to bake it. And I may come back on and do a part 2 so that y'all can see some of it baked. I'm trying to find my Pampered Chef pizza. Deal. Okay, so I'm gonna olive oil this or avocado oil, and then after this bread proofs in my banneton basket, you basically flip it. You can either try that way, but I would most likely lay this on top of my basket, carefully flip it over, pull away, and it should come right out because we're going to flour it, okay? And then it's going to be ready to go in the oven at that point. But anyway, these you don't want to put in the dishwasher, or you can rinse them with your sprayer if it starts getting crusty and stuff in it, and then just kind of wipe it dry with the paper towels, and then you go back through and you dust it again with your flour, and you might want to sift it. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a tea strainer. I'll show y'all that too in a second. In times like this, whenever we're having to improvise and use what we have at home, always think outside of the box. There's always, if there's a will, there is a way. That was a big dust. I just want to really coat this really well because the flour, the bread ball is going to be wet and sticky. So we want it to slide right out when we're ready to go to bake. Okay? So all that's in there. I may do one more little layer just to give another layer. But here's an example of a tea strainer. You can just kind of, you see what I'm doing? Hold on. Set it down and do this. It's a good thin coat on your basket. Okay, so, and then, you know, it doesn't take much out of your bowl for your recipe for the bread either. So we're good to go. So now we're gonna make a little well. Add water and starter, lightly mix into a ball, and rest overnight with saran wrap. I'm probably gonna, I'm gonna probably let mine proof. I'm gonna just watch it today. I may end up baking it tonight. I may end up baking it tomorrow. Okay, so we're gonna slowly pour our starter into this well here. You're gonna get your hands dirty, okay? And start mixing it. Oops, losing some of you, honey. Come on. Recipe wet. Hold on, guys. I don't want to. I have to write things down, and I'm so glad I wrote this down a while back when I was experimenting. It's never failed me, so I always go back to it. Now, if you get to a part, you know, maybe, because I did do a lot of the starter, I don't know exactly if that ladle is a cup, so I may end up adding some more flour to this until I get the right consistency. I wanted to have beforehand, before I came on live, my olives and stuff already chopped, and I forgot to do it, so I may do it. Why not? What else we got to do? We're stuck in our houses, right? I mean, I'm definitely going to add it to the bread. I don't know if on the live I'm going to put y'all through that, but I might do it. It's very sticky. So, I mean, we can add more flour to this to handle it a little bit better. And you can also keep a bowl of water and keep dipping into this water. And it helps with the stickiness also. So, hold on, I'm gonna get some of this off. I'm gonna waste a drop. This is gold. Okay, I'm gonna go wash the hands. I'll be right back. And we're gonna move on to forming this into a dough. Oops, we're doing it over here. Got my sink full over there. So how's everybody doing and handling all this? We need some messages and comments there. Okay, I'm going to go put a little bit more of my pH water into this. And we're going to add some more flour to help with the stickiness so we get it to the right consistency. Nice, see that? So I overdid some of the starter, which is okay. It allows, I think, for adjustments like I'm doing now with the flour. It'll get there. Oops. I'm just basically using the all-purpose white right now. I'm kind of, this is also kind of the part of the kneading part, and it helps to get the gluten, if any, in here to break up and break down, to give you a really nice rise in texture of the bread. So I'm going to consider this part of my kneading, which I'll do it again when I add my walnuts and stuff. I hope I have walnuts. If I don't, I'll probably do pecans. Have some yummy blueberries. I got at Sam's. Be some yummy blueberry bread. Definitely getting better. I'm going to be adding some olive oil to this also. That'll give it a nice texture and help with the stickiness that we're dealing with. Okay, so this is going to be divided into two because remember I'm going to make a plain bread for Drake, and I'm going to do one that's kicked up with the yummy garlic and walnuts and green olives. So I'm going to cut this in half and set one of them aside to be my plain loaf. Get out another bowl. Sorry, it's going to be loud in a second. Apology, viewers. I didn't need that water, so I'm going to try not to go there. I just set that right in the way. Okay, I'm cutting this in half, okay? Right in half. So this one is going to go over here for Drake's plain bread. I will be drizzling olive oil on that and everything, but I'm going to do that in a second. I got to get my hands cleaned up. Okay, this one here, I'll let this one be the Banneton basket one with the walnuts and stuff in it. So let me wash hands again, and we're going to get all those ingredients out. I can't play music at the same time because I'm having to be on my phone, on my channel to see y'all in chat, on YouTube. Otherwise, I could play music for y'all. And for some reason on my laptop, which is where I'm filming from, my live chat, the chat box don't show anybody there. So I need Drake my son to help me get that straight. Who's here? Hey, Barbara! How's it going? We're baking some bread, sister. I'll check back in a minute, okay? My hands keep getting dirty. I can't look up the phone to see who's texting me. Maybe Drake will wake up in a minute and come show me how to do it. Okay, guys, I'm grabbing my cranberries. Hang on, coming back. I'm grabbing my cranberries, my green olives, some chopped garlic, walnuts or pecans, whatever I have, real quick. We're going to add it to this, and then we're going to put it in our Banneton basket. So thank y'all for your patience. I don't have everything quite together, but I'll be right back. Okay, maybe I should sing for y'all. I don't really know what I'm going to sing anyway, so. Oh, where is the cranberries? You know what? I need to ferment some cranberries again. I don't have any. No cranberries. Barbara, what y'all doing today? Okay, I'm back. I can't find my beautiful cranberries. I'm going to tell y'all, I fermented cranberries one time. And I would put them in the bread, and they were just beautiful. Bright and red, and it added some of that, well, these are yogurt raisins. Okay, we're not going to have any raisins or cranberries in this bread. No problemo. But we are going to have some garlic and some delicious green olives. This is one of my favorite Pampered Chef tools that I've had for years. It's the chopper, if y'all have seen it before. Let me get some olives and just pile them up on a paper plate. Nothing fancy here. Okay. Let me put this back down so y'all can see. Hold on. Okay, there's my olives. I'm gonna shove as many as I can up under this tool. It's gonna be loud. Hold your ears. Chop, chop. Done. I don't like to waste a crumb. Get that from my dad. Okay. And now I think that should be enough. We'll look at it and see. Let's add that to our bread dough. Okay, let me get some fresh garlic, chopped garlic. This is what I got quickly on hand, ready to roll. Just gonna dust some on there, about a tablespoon or so, whatever you like. Heaping tablespoon. Okay. You know, you could add cheese if you want. You could whatever you like. So I'm gonna, I guess, just let it be this. Now I'm going to knead it again because we want all this yumminess that we just added to the bread to get into the bread. And it'll also give us another opportunity to, the more you knead it, the better your bread will look when it rises, because it breaks down all the gluten. And I'm saying gluten because I did use all-purpose white flour. I did also use some of the einkorn in here. Okay, so I'm basically just getting all the yumminess into throughout the dough. Throughout the dough. Okay, looking good, looking good. Now I'm going to get some olive oil, drizzle it onto this beautiful, yummy smelling dough. And you could leave it in this bowl if you wanted to. I've done it many times. I do have a self-warmer drawer that also rises the bread. But you can put it, turn your oven on, put a pan of water on the bottom rack, turn your oven on to 200, and then turn it off. And then kind of let it cool down just for, about 5 or 10 minutes, and then stick your dough in the oven. And or you can even just turn your oven lights on. In the pan of water, the moisture will help. And let it proof like that, okay? So we're gonna fold it into this banneton. Hey, Drake. I wish you could get my screen bigger. You think you could? With me live right now? Maybe not. Yeah, come look at how I'm doing this. It's hard for me to see what I've got on the screen because it's so small. Okay, so this is ready to rise. Now we're gonna cover it. Let me clean my hands. I hate wasting anything. Drake's helping me, y'all. I'm going to cover it with this fabric that came with my banneton basket. Whoops. And I'm going to put it in my warming drawer and let it proof in there on very, very low bread proofing temperature. Okay. And then for Drake's, I'm going to leave his in the metal bucket. I'm going to pour some olive oil on top. And I'm going to get a cheesecloth. I'm going to wet the cheesecloth. Okay, babe. I'm already. Okay, I'm still live, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've wet my cheesecloth, you guys. Well, I'll say it's a cheesecloth, but it's a towel. And I'm going to cover it like this. And it's also going to go in the warming jar just like that. I will probably also put a small bowl of water and put my warming jar on moist for it to proof. So that's pretty much as far as I can get right now with showing y'all the steps to do sourdough starter and to get a bread started. I'll probably do a part 2 and come back again either live, or I will record it and upload it for y'all. So thank you for stopping in and checking out my channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and click the button because or the bell. It will notify you when I put any new content on my page. I haven't been very active probably since October, since I lost Sugar Baby. I'm slowly coming back in and trying to get active again. Anyway, y'all stay well, and remember, socially distanced, 6 feet apart. Stay home, find something fun to do, bake some bread. I love you, and I'm praying for